Hello, sisters and brothers, and welcome to Wild Olive Trees. I'm Brother Paul from the Fellowship of the Spirit, and the precept that we are going to deal with today is quite simply pride. Pride. Sisters and brothers, we are going to let the wisest man that ever lived teach us a little bit about pride. And we're going to start this off in Proverbs, the 11th chapter. Proverbs, the 11th chapter. We're just going to let the scriptures break down pride. Proverbs 11 and verse 2, Brother Mike. Whenever you're ready, Brother Mike, let's start this lesson off. 11 and 2.
When pride cometh, then cometh shame, but with the lowly is wisdom.
When pride cometh, then cometh shame. There's a godly pride. There's taking pride in your accomplishments, taking pride in the accomplishments of your children and your grandchildren. Pride when your spouse does a good job, when things fall into place with your favorite sports team or whatever the case might be. There's pride that doesn't affect our countenance, doesn't affect whether or not we're going to sin or not. And then there's pride that always comes before the fall. And what we're dealing with today is ungodly pride. And when pride comes, then cometh shame. But with the lowly is wisdom. The lowly, yes, with those that are meek and humble. Let's go to Proverbs, the 13th chapter. We're going to read one verse. Proverbs 13 and verse 10, brother. Go ahead.
Only by pride cometh contention, but with the well-advised is wisdom.
So with the well-advised is wisdom, but it's only by pride that contention comes in. You're over here rightly dividing the word, and you show somebody something, and they shut down immediately with that false pride. Oh, that's not what it is. You can't tell me. You can't judge me. That false pride, their ego's been bruised. You don't want to deal with that pride, because with pride comes contention. With the well-advised is wisdom. Let's go to Proverbs, the 14th chapter. One verse, brother, verse 3. What else about pride, brother? Go ahead.
In the mouth of the foolish is a rod of pride, but the lips of the wise shall preserve them.
The lips of the wise shall preserve them, because the lips of the wise realize that this isn't our message. That the way we're supposed to conduct ourselves isn't something we came up with. What we're doing is we're beggars, man. Our righteousness is filthy rags. We're over here basically begging the Lord to allow us to serve him. Because we were such sinners in the flesh. That grace and mercy has brought us to the point where we have understanding, and now we want to do the very best to serve this mighty God. But in the mouth of the foolish is a rod of pride. The foolish are always spurting about how they can do this, and I'm this, and I got that, and I'm this, that, and the other, and you this, and false pride, ego. Not good, sisters and brothers. Not good at all. This pride is in the mouth of the foolish. But the Lord over and over again is saying those that have wisdom are well reserved and well spoken. Let's go to the 16th chapter of Proverbs. Proverbs 16. Let's see what happens before you go in the fire. 16 and verse 18, brother. Go ahead.
Pride goeth before destruction, and an haughty spirit before a fall.
Pride goes before destruction, and being puffed up before you fall. Moses got all puffed up a couple times. Once he forgot to circumcise his son. Jesus was going to kill him on the way to Egypt after he sent him to pull Egypt out, to pull Israel out of Egypt. Disobedience. He got puffed up again, and he hit the rock. The Lord said to speak unto the rock. He hit it twice and started admonishing Israel. Got all puffed up. False pride. Let's go to the 29th chapter of Proverbs. Proverbs 29. We're going to read one verse, brother, verse 23. 29 and 23. Go ahead.
A man's pride shall bring him low, but honor shall uphold the humble in spirit.
It's impossible to be filled with false pride when you're striving to be humble. A man's pride shall bring him low, but honor shall uphold the humble in spirit. Let's back up to the 26th chapter of Proverbs. Proverbs, the 26th chapter. We're going to pick it up at verse 24, brother. 26 and 24. Go ahead.
He that hateth dissembleth with his lips, and layeth up deceit within him.
He that hateth dissembleth with his lips, and layeth up deceit in him. Go ahead.
When he speaketh fair, believe him not, for there are 7 abominations in his heart.
When he starts speaking fair, don't believe this brother, righteous judgment, or sister. Because when he starts speaking fair, believe him not, because there's 7 abominations in this brother's heart or sister's heart. Go ahead. Are you done with that? Yes, sir.
Yeah, we're done with that, brother.
Let's go to Proverbs, the 6th chapter, and see what the Lord's talking about. Proverbs 6. Proverbs 6. And brother, pick it up at verse 16. 6 and 16. And look at the first thing the Lord's going to talk about. Go ahead.
These 6 things does the Lord hate, yea, 7 are an abomination unto
There's
him.
those abominations. Go ahead, brother.
A proud look, a lying tongue, and hands that shed innocent blood.
Everything starts with that proud look, sisters and brothers. That's the first abomination, is being proud in an ungodly way. Go ahead and finish that, brother.
And heart that deviseth wicked imaginations, feet that be swift in running to mischief.
Go ahead.
A false witness that speaketh lies, and he that soweth discord among the brethren. My son, keep thy father's commandments, and forsake not the law of thy mother. Bind them continually upon thy heart, and tie them about thy neck.
The only way to combat being filled with false pride, sisters and brothers, is by taking hold of those commandments. Guarding and leading and guarding your heart. Not just leading and guarding. You guard it, then you lead it, then you guard it some more. Taking hold of those commandments, guarding your heart, walking with the right spirit. It's the only way to stop yourself from getting puffed up. Because when you're over there and you've got a little wisdom, knowledge, and understanding, especially when you start showing it to other people, it's real easy to think you're something special. It's real easy when people start coming into this and they start coming to you for questions, to think that you're something that the Lord has set up that's really special, but you're nobody. You're nothing. The Lord was going to kill Moses on the way to pull Israel out of Egypt. You think you're going to get away with being all puffed up? You got to lead and guard this heart. You got to guard it, lead it, and guard it some more. And you got to do it with the right spirit. You got to always be watching and praying. You got to be resisting that temptation. You got to be sober and vigilant. You got to be exhibiting those fruits of the spirit, pushing aside the lust of the flesh. Because that pride, when you let that pride start to come in, that's the first thing you need to be watching for, because that comes before the fall. Getting puffed up, thinking you're something, and forgetting about the basic things that the Lord tells us to do. Last place, let's go to 1 Peter, the 5th chapter. 1 Peter 5. 1 Peter 5. 1 Peter 5 and 1 verse, brother. Verse 5. 1 Peter 5 and 5. Go ahead.
Likewise, ye younger, submit yourselves unto the elder. Yea, all of you be subject one to another, and be clothed with humility, for God resisteth the proud, and giveth grace to the humble.
Sisters and brothers, this race is all about striving to be humble. Forget about that pride. Kick it to the side. Let the Lord one day at the appointed time, when you're standing in front of him, prayerfully and hopefully right before you start ascending up into the sky to meet him, you hear, well done, my good and faithful servant. Then you can be puffed up with pride when you go up to meet him and he hands you a sword and you come back down to take his kingdom back by force. But until that day, humility is the only way, sisters and brothers. So once again, we thank you, sisters and brothers, for the opportunity to rightly divide God's word, and we hope that you got something from these scriptures.